And greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I'm Steve Deace, brought to you by our friends over at Chirp. Their mission is simple: bring relief to as many people as possible so you can feel better, restore your energy, make self-care simple. They've created a whole new category called relief. They are constantly innovating to deliver professional-grade therapies people can use at home. These are doctor-trusted, FDA-cleared devices that work just like clinic treatments, but without the expensive appointments. For example, you can use the Chirp Contour, which I used to help with my neck after all the flying around the country. In fact, I'm about to get back on a plane later today in order to do an event for TPUSA Faith's college tour at the University of South Carolina tomorrow night there in Columbia. And when I get back, I will hop back on the Contour because I have this thing on planes where I cannot sleep on planes, and yet I fall asleep and then wake back up and my neck is dangling. This happens to me all the time. So I hopped onto the Contour when I got back from vacation last week. Made a massive difference in my neck. So there's also the Chirp Halo. It's a wearable wireless device that helps with technologies with pain relief, muscle recovery, and circulation. I have not had a chance to try that yet, but that's also on my list. I think I gave, Aaron, didn't I give you one of those?
You did indeed, and I can't wait to use it.
All right, so let us know. Give us the report when you and Bella have a chance to use it as well. So visit gochirp.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve at checkout for 10% off site-wide. That's gochirp.com/Steve, promo code Steve for 10% off site-wide at gochirp.com/Steve using the promo code Steve. All right, coming up today on the program, we still have no Daniel Horowitz. One final week with him absent because of High Holy Days on the Jewish calendar. He is scheduled to return to the show next week. So you will get a full continuous hour of Buy, Sell, or Hold with your submissions coming up in the second hour of the program. At the bottom of this hour, I think we have a workaround some of those pesky, made up yet still enforced nevertheless, separation of church and state laws in our government schools. We maybe have a workaround for you. And we're going to introduce you to that workaround coming up at the bottom of the hour. But before we get there, let's begin as we always do with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by a reminder and a challenge. On what was to be his 32nd birthday, President Trump honored Charlie Kirk at the White House yesterday with the posthumous presentation of the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Charles James Kirk was a visionary and one of the greatest figures of his generation. He was truly an amazing figure and growing leaps and bounds. He knew that the fight to preserve our heritage is waged not only on the battlefield and in the halls of power, but also in the hearts of our nation's youth. That's where Charlie rode strongest.
Charlie's widow, Erika, attended the event and spoke as well.
Honestly, President Trump, I have spent 7.5 years trying to find the perfect birthday gift for Charlie. And it's so difficult. And those of you that have spouses or loved ones, you know how difficult it is sometimes to buy a gift for someone that you love, because he wasn't a materialistic man, so that also did not help. But now I can say with confidence, Mr. President, that you have given him the best birthday gift he could ever have.
President Trump, during his remarks, noted that action is being taken against the left-wing elements that foment such political violence.
His example, we've watched legions of far-left radicals resort to desperate acts of violence and terror because they know that their ideas and arguments are persuading no one. They know that they're failing. They have the devil's ideology, and they're failing, and they know it. They feel it. And they become violent.
By the way, yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio revoked the visas of foreigners who cheered or justified the assassination of Kirk. Nevertheless, Erika Kirk reminded everyone how her husband often prayed.
Surprisingly enough, he did pray for his enemies, which is very hard, but he did. He did. He did. No one else, I saw him do it. No, he never did it in front of anyone else, but I can attest to that.
Kirk also says there's a clear choice before our country.
Presidential Medal of Freedom reminds us that the national interest of the United States has always been freedom. Our founders etched it into the preamble of our Constitution, and those words are not relics on parchment. They are a living covenant. The blessings of liberty are not man's invention. They are God's endowment. Charlie lived for those blessings, not as abstract words, but as sacred promises. He used to love to journal about this topic all the time, and with such a heart postured of gratitude. And he believed that liberty was both a right and a responsibility. And he used to say, freedom is the ability to do what is right without fear. And that's how he lived. He was free from fear. He was free from compromise, free from anything that could enslave his soul. His name, Charles, literally means free man. And that's exactly who my husband was. He was a free man. And from the time I met him, sitting across from him, being interviewed on politics and philosophy and theology, anything that Charlie loved, any topic he loved, and I just saw the fire in his soul, and there was this divine restlessness within him that came from knowing God placed him on this earth to protect something very, very sacred for all of us. And he never stopped fighting for people to experience freedom.
Erika Kirk once again exuded nothing but strength. But it was a reminder for all of us just the heavy toll, the heavy cost her and her family are facing.
I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. Excuse me. She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal." Oh, man. I want you to eat a cupcake with ice cream. And I want you to go have a birthday surprise.
Hard to believe still that this happened. I mean, we all watched it happen. We've all lived through the aftermath. Those of us who knew him and loved him have all had these conversations. Several of us have made the pilgrimage to Phoenix and TPUSA. The whole thing to me is still very surreal. I mean, it's going to feel very surreal to go do that event tomorrow night. I'm very much looking forward to it, but it's the whole thing. It's still hard to accept that this happened. I want to share some of the other words that Erika gave during her 15-minute prophetic level address that she gave yesterday from the Rose Garden. And Charlie is the first Medal of Freedom recipient ever to have a cross emblazoned upon his medal. That's never happened before in American history. Quote, "This is not a ceremony. This is a commissioning. And my message is simple. I want you to be the embodiment of this medal. I want you to free yourself from fear. I want you to stand courageously in the truth and listen for the still small voice of God. And remember that while freedom is inherited in this country, each of us must be intentional stewards of it every single day." I mean, that is Washington farewell address level prose there. A couple of things I noticed in my feed as I was just checking the headlines at the last minute before we went on the air. I saw this from Andrew Colvett, Charlie's producer, and he had posted this graphic from Fox News, citing sources like BookScan, charts who track stream downloads and app downloads, and then also Spotify's music charts. In the last month since Charlie's martyrdom, in the last month, Bible sales up 41.6% in America. And keep in mind, they were already up 15% for last year in 2024, one of the largest single-year increases we've had in I don't know how long. So they were already trending up. And now that trend has tripled just in the last month. App downloads in the religion and spirituality categories on the various various podcast services are up 79.5%. And this was already, for example, this is our lead category on Apple iTunes, is that category. So we're very familiar with it on our show. It's already one of the largest categories on Apple iTunes. There's over 37,000 podcasts in this category. And now downloads from that category are up 79.5%. Christian music streaming on Spotify is up 50%. And I have zero doubt that Charlie would have gleefully volunteered his life for everything I just told you, except for the one piece of Erika's prophetic address yesterday that was very personal to her, asking Charlie's surviving daughter what she wants to get her daddy for her birthday, who she'll never celebrate another one of those with him ever again. Aside from the family, no man, 22, 32, 102, no man who loves the Lord could have crafted a better death than this. If the Lord had come to him and said, script it out, and then the aftermath, I'm going to let you do that. Couldn't have scripted anything better than this. It was quick. It was painless. It happened right as you are the man in the arena, preaching the gospel. And it sparked instantaneous, at least mustard seeds of revival. No man can craft a better death than this. Could script this out better. And then every time I think to myself, you son of a gun, man, you got the drop on us even in death. I think about the family that is left behind and the price they are paying for this death. And it is a very, very high price. And yet the grace and vision that Erika Kirk has conducted herself with in the aftermath of this, it can only be described as supernatural. They're just, this is not human. Maybe in our flesh, we could pull this off maybe once. But to maintain this, and I mean, I was there in Phoenix. I saw her with my own eyes. I had talked to her. This is something very, very supernatural. What she said about compromise, the lack of compromise in Charlie's life. Think about how many young people he was around, young women he was around. No hint of scandal, nothing. No rumors of it, even nothing. There's nothing. I mean, you can be indicted for shaking Donald Trump's hand once, depending on who's in charge these days. And Charlie ran the largest, most powerful nonprofit in all of MAGA. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Todd, you think the Biden administration went through the TPUSA 990 form about 666 times? What do you think?
I do.
And then probably went through another 666 more, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. If there was anything there, anything, in fact, there didn't even have to be anything there. If there was something that could have conjured into being anything there, you don't think that they would have just added him to the roster of those that they have taught that the process is the punishment to? Of course they would have. This is one heaven of a legacy that this young man leaves behind. And this older man, he was old enough to be his dad, feels in the right ways. Very challenged to live up to it. I'll hand it over to you guys. I don't really have anything more. Go ahead on this topic anyway.
You read 2 words there earlier. Intentional stewardship. That really stuck with me because they are not particularly poetic words, but when you see the life that lived them, it turns into poetry. Stewardship. Take care of something. Action verb. Get to work. That was absolutely Charlie. And then intentionally. Don't just wait until the 11th hour to intentionally go on offense. Set the terms. Define the rules. Draw the lines. Again, Charlie Kirk. If in Notre Dame goes out onto the field and hits the sign, play like a champion today. If you need a sign in your home or on your mirror as a man, Charlie Kirk, intentional stewardship. It's a very important way of saying what I say all the time of being a male is not a leisure pursuit. This is the way of taking when I say that more as a negative connotation and turning it into a positive. Charlie's life was the embodiment of that. And that's why when his life was taken, he could hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Amen. And there was another reminder, a challenge that Erika issued, and it was my mistake. I missed an edit, but at the end of her challenge about what freedom actually means, without freedom or without God, freedom becomes chaos. Mm-hmm. That is the choice. Mm-hmm. It's Christ or chaos. It always has been. Mm-hmm. No matter what you think about the founding of this country or the founding of any country or the founding of any institution or the start of any marriage or relationship, in all things, it's either Christ or chaos. And that assassin tried to make that decision for the Kirks, tried to plunge that family into chaos. And I just, again, am blown away by the strength and courage of Erika, saying once again, with a very public platform, no, my choice is Christ. I've said multiple times in the the passings of so many giants of the faith in recent times that it certainly seems like, and I think it's perfectly clear to me from my vantage point that God is making in uncertain terms, making it clear. He's calling the men to choose Christ now. I expressed something in overtime on Friday. I know what's supposed to stay, says in overtime, stays in overtime. At the time off we had last week, it was just such a blessing to do the quote-unquote mundane things with my family. I think for a lot of us, that might be the calling, if you do have a family, is to rejoice in them and value them and do your best for them. For others, it might be getting a platform, running for office, running for power, wielding power. But in all things, you have to choose Christ, in even the so-called little things, the mundane things. Choose Christ, or else it will turn to chaos one way or another. And I think if nothing else, if you look at Charlie's career, say what you want about what he believed in, just a good guy, a good Christian guy. Okay? He wasn't out there doing edgelord material on social media every day. But if you look carefully at his life, it's just a series of small decisions of choosing Christ, choosing Christ, choosing Christ. What was at one point maybe just a Republican get out the vote ancillary operation became what it is now, which is a massive organization whose charge now, and increasingly in recent years, was to put that decision before the future of this country, the progeny of this country. It's either Christ or chaos. When you look at the example of Charlie Kirk, Erika pointed out what his first name means, free man. Kirk, Scottish, I believe, means church or from the church. Free man from the church, illustrating for the future of this country, it's Christ or chaos. In illustrating in his own life, small decisions, choosing Christ along the way. I think that's the perfect, beyond our Savior himself. In terms of contemporary times, I think that's as close to a perfect example as a mere mortal can come.
Well said, both of you. And there's been a lot of debate the last few decades in Christian circles about whether or not we can engage the political process without losing our own souls. Is there a third way where we just preach the gospel, let the cultural forces and political forces come what may, and we can actually have a cultural impact by not directly confronting the spirit of the age, but just overpopulating them with people who live for Jesus, quiet lives of faithfulness, essentially. That's the third way. And there were very prominent ministers who preached a variation of this. I certainly would say John MacArthur's theology was way more robust than Tim Keller's, but his application of his theology, much of his ministerial career, was not any different than Tim Keller's. And it's quite possible John MacArthur is the greatest English-speaking minister that the United States produced in the 20th century. If you don't look at somebody like Billy Graham as a formal minister, but maybe more of an evangelist. And he taught his flock for 40 years not to engage, that it wasn't our fight. Not what we do. Tim Keller built a church right in the heart of New York City, maybe sold more books than anybody not named Joel Osteen in the last 50 years with a Christian brand. And he was right there in the heart of New York City and just chose not to engage. So MSNBC host felt comfortable going to his church. And then based on what they said on the air right after going, never really felt any kind of conviction at all that maybe they should change their ways. And I have wrestled with this my entire career. I have been bound and determined to the point that maybe I've not always made the best choices and thought things through on some occasions. But I've just been bound and determined. I'm not ending this becoming like that which I began criticizing when I first started. I'm not letting this process take my soul from me. I'm just not. I want to win. I think we have to win. But there are limits to how far I'm willing to go and what I'm willing to compromise to win. I refuse to let myself become somebody that can't look my own children in the eye. And you look at Charlie Kirk yesterday, the President of the United States. I want to make sure I quote this to you directly. The President of the United States said these words, and I quote, when talking about the spirit of the age, quote, "They have the devil's ideology." Now, this is a president whose moral failings are well known and documented, who it's very clear on multiple public occasions as of late, has made it very clear he is wrestling with his own salvation as he knows he's on his last lap. He's gone from, I'm trying to earn my way, to I don't think I can earn my way. I don't think I can get there. He's very publicly wrestling with his own salvation. This was the man of 2 Corinthians. And now he stands up there at Charlie's commissioning yesterday and says, they have the devil's ideology. That is Lincoln-esque, Washington-esque levels of laying it on the line of the true stakes of where we are from the bully pulpit of the White House. That is, frankly, more prophetic honesty than you're going to get from a lot of evangelical churches. And I'm going to guess you'd probably say the same things about your side of the street on this one as well. How many priests in various parishes around the country would just say flat out, what we're up against is the devil's ideology.
Right. And the reason Trump is saying this now, somewhere along the way, the Christian influence on Donald Trump start with 2016, it started off as being Mike Pence.
Yep.
And Charlie was only 19.
Yep.
And somewhere along the way, it flipped.
Yes.
And it became the likes of Charlie Kirk.
You can see, Charlie proved, and I said this in the aftermath of his death, and I'll say it again. He proved God used him. His ultimate legacy is going to be that God used Charlie Kirk to shame and crush and destroy the shibboleth of the damned of whatever the church growth, seeker-friendly, third way, Big Eva movement was over the last generation. Just took it and smashed it to pieces right to their faces. Not a hint of scandal with all the young women he's surrounded by all the time. Not a hint of scandal running the most profligate nonprofit within the most prosecuted American political movement of all time. Nothing. They have nothing. And a president who's unsure of his own salvation when he's pretty confident of almost everything else stands up there and with great confidence talks about the fact that we're up against the devil's ideology. My man, that's his legacy right there. He proved. The real third way is actually doing it God's way. Pursuing personal holiness and public righteousness simultaneously, that they are symbiotic and they are not separate from one another. And he did it. And he proved it. And there really wasn't anything else for him to prove, and that's why, at age 32, even before he turned 32, he got called home with a martyr's death. And now it'll be up to those of us left behind here to follow and lead with that example. And you have my word, for however much time I have left, I fully intend to do my best to do so. More in a moment. Folks, our friends over at Moxie Pest Services, they're celebrating their silver anniversary. And the reason why is they understand the number one goal of a successful pest control company is to make sure they're not the actual pest. So they have daily check-ins, follow-throughs with their technicians to make sure that they've got the latest cutting-edge treatments and technologies for your home or business. But then they also make sure they don't lose sight of the lost art of customer service, that the little things make such a huge difference, like maybe gave your pest control person the garage code so they can get into the house, and then they didn't close it back up, and so they left it open all day long, and who knows who's been getting into your home, stuff like that. Or they didn't cover their feet so you can see the footprints of everywhere they went, including the spot they told you they were going to get that they didn't get to. Right? If you've got any of those stories or more, check out our friends over at Moxie Pest Services. All right, Moxie Pest Control. All right, and if you want to take advantage of their special offer right now, to celebrate their silver anniversary, you can get your first pest control service for just $25 at moxieservices.com/Steve if you use the promo code Steve. That's moxieservices.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve to get that first pest control service for just $25 at moxieservices.com/Steve. Use the promo code Steve. So the doctrine of the separation of church and state, as it's been known in Western tradition, actually came out of the Protestant Reformation. The idea that there are separate stations and spheres of authority. And the time the concept is first uttered in American history actually comes in kind of an obscure letter that President at the time, Thomas Jefferson, wrote to a group called the Danbury Baptist. And many of you know, 12 of the 13 colonies were commissioned by specific vestiges of the Christian church, like Quakers in Pennsylvania. This is why there were always heavy populations of these people in those states. So Anglicans in Virginia, Quakers in Pennsylvania, Catholics in Maryland, all right? With one exception, Rhode Island, which was created by a Baptist to kind of just be an ecumenical place where all the various Christian persuasions were welcome. And well into the early years of the colonial era, the state governments were still collecting tithes for the official church of the state. And the official church of the state of Connecticut was the Congregational Church. Well, a group of Baptists who unfortunately were not Congregationalists but still living in Connecticut nevertheless, they were upset that they were not getting the full benefits of being a member of Connecticut in good standing because they belonged to the wrong church. So they wrote a letter to President Jefferson urging the federal government to step in and do something here. And Jefferson writes back that the Constitution implies, those were his exact words, implies a thin wall of separation of church and state. Those are his exact words. But he makes it very clear that the purpose of that thin wall that's implied, and what did he mean by it's implied? Well, you ever wondered why the Constitution says no religious test for office? Does that mean if a Satanist is running for office, you can't judge their religion and whether to vote for them or not, or whether they even should be allowed to run? Is that what it means?
It shouldn't.
It's not what it means. What it meant was, again, there's a federal government, but there's all these states now that have their own agency and autonomy, then they're all founded by these individual churches. So what happens if, one church gets a gerrymander and can say, well, Congregationalists now can't be elected to Congress? They didn't want that to happen. That's what no religious test for office meant. Didn't mean you couldn't actually discern people's religious views and whether that should be a reason to vote for somebody or not. That's not what it meant. And that's an example of the thin wall of the separation of church and state. And so Jefferson said, hey, you don't want to set the precedent that the federal government decides these kinds of matters because it will not go well for the church. The point of this thin wall is not to protect the church from
the government from the church. It's protect the
church from the government. Correct. Yes. Right. Well, of course, this has been completely turned on its ear and bastardized, particularly with things like the Lemon Test and other judicial heresies of the last generation or so. And so a lot of Americans believe the separation of church and state is like on page 1 of the Constitution. You ever want to win a good bar bet? Just ask somebody, hey, $100, go find the word separation of church and state in the Constitution or any of its accompanying amendments for me. You won't be able to find it. Nevertheless, we enforce it as if it is. So that means we've got to be subversive at times, and we need workarounds because there's also no such thing as the secular. Secular just means the spirit of the age has captured this institution and doesn't want to let God back in. That's what secular means, right? So one of those subversive means we want to introduce you to today. Joel Penton is here with us, and he is with LifeWise Academy. And it is a pleasure, Joel, to finally connect with you and get you on our show today, brother. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks so much, Steve, for having me.
And that was a lengthy preamble before bringing on a guest. I don't typically do that, but I kind of wanted to set the stage for the environment that makes what you guys are attempting to do be necessary in the first place. So I'll let you pick it up from there. What is it you guys are attempting to do?
Well, we provide Bible education for public school students during school hours, which, as you indicated, would be surprising to many people who have a certain understanding of the separation of church and state. As we all know, decades ago, our nation systematically removed the Bible from the public school day, which is tragic to say the least. I mean, the public education system exists in part because it was originally started to teach students the Bible. And now the Bible's been removed. It's had disastrous consequences for students all across the nation. What few people realize is there's a viable path to put it back. In 1952, the Supreme Court ruled that public school students can in fact be released from public school during school hours to receive religious instruction if the program is off school property, privately funded, and students have parental permission. This has sadly been kind of under the radar, underutilized for more than 70 years. We believe it's the single greatest missed opportunity of the American church to reach the next generation with the Word of God. And so after finding out about it in 2019, we created a program that is a plug-and-play program any community can implement to teach the Bible to their local public school students. We started in 2019 just with 2 schools, and we set what we thought was a very ambitious goal. We said, this is going well. Let's try to serve 25 schools by 2025. 25 by 25. And wouldn't you know, here we are in 2025, and we are confirmed for this school year in more than 1,000 schools across 35 states. We are seeing, as I said, there really is a viable path to reinstall Bible education for every single one of the 13,000 school districts, 90,000 school buildings, 50 million public school students all across the nation.
So just to demonstrate and prove the point of what you were just saying about what the schools were originally intended to, I have here in front of me a PDF copy, 1820 edition. So we're almost a full generation now into the United States of America from the time of the Declaration. We are a full 60 plus years. And given lifespans at that time, all right, you would have, if you were born the year that the Declaration was ratified announcing us as a country, you probably already lived a full life and were dead by 1820. So definitely a full generation. We're well into the second generation of America now, into the 1820s. And even they were still using a book known as the New England Primer as the standardized textbook for even what we would call today elementary school kids in America. And here's how the alphabet, just the first 2 letters. Here's how the alphabet was taught to the first several generations of American school children in your public schools. All right, A. Yeah, and there's a theme, so you'd remember the letter. Okay, A, which means in Adam's fall we sinned all. B, thy life to mend, this book attend. And the little drawing of the book that is being discussed here in the New England Primer is the Bible, right? And right. Now not every one of the 26 letters has a biblical theme. Several of them, though, do. But I think that even furthers the point that it was just such a part of the daily life. They didn't have to like shoehorn it in there or force it in there. Like the letter C, the cat doth play and after flay, right? So some of them are just rhymes of just random other things and coincidences that are part of everyday American life. So the kids would remember what these letters were. But that proves the point that the Bible was just a part of that everyday life. It didn't have to get shoehorned in. Nothing had to be contrived. All right. It was just an everyday part of the life that the people that founded and framed what we now know as the United States of America, the way that they lived, Joel.
Well, and not only was it just part of it, if you go back further, you go back to colonial times, you'll see that one of the first laws we have on the books, and this is before even the Revolution, is from Massachusetts. You have the Old Deluder Satan Act, which established the law that communities must educate their children explicitly because then they will be able to read the Bible and they won't be deceived by Satan. And so this has been in the very DNA of education in America, which is why one of the reasons it is so tragic that it has been removed. And as I said, the results are disastrous. When you look at kids' lives, when you look at the mental health crisis, when you look at behavior, when you look at academics, I mean, when you remove the foundation of education, we talked today about educating the whole child, about a well-rounded foundation, and yet we are removing the very fundamental worldview. We're removing the hub of the wheel that creates that well-rounded education. We shouldn't be surprised when we get the results we're seeing.
So you guys, I'm sure, have been challenged on this from the very beginning, right? I would assume, in courts and everything else. Tell us how that has gone.
Well, believe it or not, at the very beginning, we didn't receive a ton of pushback. In fact, almost so little we were surprised. And I think it's because we were small. People thought we were this marginal group just off there in the corner doing our thing. But once we started seeing dozens of schools and interest spread rapidly across the country, we have certainly come into the crosshairs of those who want to oppose Bible education. The Freedom from Religion folks got involved and started sending letters to schools telling them not to work with us. MSNBC got involved trying to paint us as a purely political organization or something, even though we're a Bible study program for kids. And so we have been receiving the opposition. But what's been so wonderful is that a couple things. Number one, the Constitution is so clear, or at least the Supreme Court ruling is so clear. What we're doing is legal. There's no legal leg to stand on to attack us. And we're seeing more and more states pass legislation that strengthens what we do. Sometimes people think, oh, this thing of release time religious instruction, which is what we do. Oh, that's something from decades ago, and it's probably phasing out of the laws and that type of thing. In fact, it's the opposite. Just in the last 18 months, 7 states have passed laws strengthening release time religious instruction and families' access to it in their states. And so things are headed in the right direction.
Are you surprised by how quickly this has taken off? I mean, if we were just citing some stats that Fox News aired just in the month since Charlie's martyrdom, the surge of Bible sales, and they were already on the upswing from last year, surge in Christian music downloads at Spotify. The religion and spirituality podcast categories were already among the largest. There's over 37,000 of those on Apple iTunes alone, and yet there's a massive increase, 79% increase in downloads from that category in general, right? So you guys kind of have been on the front end of this with how popular your little subversive program has become. That's not so little anymore, right? So are you surprised how much you guys have kind of been able to sneak into the back door here? And what do you think it means?
I think on one level, we were surprised. I mean, as I said, our original goal was 25 schools by 2025. On another level, I think we weren't surprised. I think everybody here has felt what all of your listeners and viewers are feeling, is that the pendulum is swinging back, that we went as far as you could go in terms of secularizing, in terms of pushing God into the corner, and that we were starting to really reap the horrible results of that, and that there was this growing hunger in our society, and particularly in what we do among parents. I think parents they're wanting more for their kids. We're a couple of generations into this departure from the Christian culture, the departure from being sure you're in church and being sure you're investing the gospel into the lives of your family. And I think that there's younger families that are saying, we want more for our kids. We want to expose our kids to these things. And then, of course, as you pointed out, even just in the events of the last month or so, that's really, it's turned up the volume on all of that.
All right, I want to make sure you have enough time to give out information to our audience if they want to join your program. But there's one other question I've got to ask before I get there. We got about 3.5 minutes. Doing this all over the country, have you guys run into any people on the left, any Democrats, that were like, okay, on the surface, I completely, totally oppose this, but after, seeing how the whole thing has worked out and how it's benefited the community and the schools, maybe it's still not my thing, but I'm not your enemy. Have you had any of that at all?
We see it pretty regularly that there are those who at the beginning, they're at least skeptical, if not opposed. And then once they see the results, they get behind it. I mean, just one example, it's pretty typical. We'll go to a school and they say, oh, I see where this is legal, but how's this going to work out? How's it going to work in the schedule? I don't know. And they give us approval and we get their acknowledgement. We start the program. And then a year in, they get excited. And one school in particular, that's how they responded. The school, in fact, in Southern Ohio, they were hesitant. They allowed us to work with one school building, maybe just a couple grades. And a year later, they're at the table saying, how quickly can we get this to all of our school buildings, to all of our grades? This is absolutely critical for our students because it's not a secret that students need values. In fact, we regularly hear that from school administrators. They know that kids who have the Bible being poured into their lives, that they do better. Their behavior improves, their attendance increases, their academics improve, their lives improve. And so they're not surprised when they do see those results, and then they want more of it.
Great stuff. Love what you guys are doing. Joel, people all over the country, if they want to get involved in what you guys are doing, what would you suggest they do?
Well, the best thing would be to go to our website, lifewise.org. That's lifewise.org. There's a variety of things you can see there, videos, resources. You can look up any school district in the nation and see where things stand in your area. The process of getting LifeWise started begins with a signature campaign. You can find your school district. You can add your name to the list. You can get plugged in. You can also, on our website, learn about this movie that we have coming out. In fact, a feature-length documentary film that's being released in theaters nationwide next week on the 23rd. You can look up what theater in your community is carrying off-school property, solving the separation of church and state. Go see the movie, bring some friends, and then get plugged into a LifeWise near you.
Good job out of you to mention that. I forgot to plug that, so my apologies on that, Joel. So thank you for mentioning that as well. That's all at lifewise.org. All of that information is?
That's right, lifewise.org.
Well, we got you guys into our own state in our last legislative session here last year. So look forward to seeing the fruit of that here in Iowa, and to our audiences around the country where you want to go. Lifewise.org. That's lifewise.org. Good to see you, Joel. Don't be a stranger, brother. Okay.
Steve, thanks so much.
You bet. You guys have any quick thoughts on that?
Intentional stewardship, just like Charlie did. Have a plan. Go to work. And go on offense doing it. Don't wait for somebody else to put you in a corner.
I love how you connect those dots there. That was great. Aaron, you're up next, and we come back. Actually, the audience is up next, but Aaron will be your vessel for Buy, Sell, or Hold. Stay tuned. And we are back with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzen and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Pardon me. Don't know where that sneeze came from. Now you guys are rubbing off on me. I mean, Erzen's over here during breaks, just literally coughing up lungs like he's smoked 3 packs or carton a day for 35 years.
That's me getting better.
Yeah, that is you getting better. All right. So anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Steve@stevedeace.com is the email address. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then if you wouldn't mind, if you're a podcast listener, hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, hit follow. And that's how you'll know for sure that every time we do a new episode, it's for sure there in your feed. And then you can also leave us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done this for us. We appreciate all of those. Thank you to each and every one of you. And thanks as well to our friends over at Relief Factor. You know, Bob is another one of their success stories. He's 63, 40 years as a body man, car painter. He's like, hey, man, after doing that for 40 years, I could barely walk, couldn't make it up the stairs. But by day 4 or 5, I was feeling the change with Relief Factor. And after just 8 days on Relief Factor, I'd say I was 75% better. I'm comfortable now. I'm thoroughly impressed. So why don't you see, if you don't see a difference in your chronic pain in 3 weeks or less with our friends at Relief Factor? Because these kinds of transformations just cannot be ignored. If you're living with daily aches and pains, Relief Factor might be the real deal for you. Over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start. 70% of them had stories similar to Bob's and stuck with the product long term. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less when you go to relieffactor.com. Again, it's just $20 for the 3-week quick start. That's all it takes to find out if you're the next Bob. relieffactor.com. Again, get the 3-week quick start today at relieffactor.com. And with that, the rest of this hour now belongs to you, the people. This show is yours. It is time for buy, sell, or hold. Todd and I have yet to see any of the submissions that Aaron is about to unfurl for us. No topic is off limits. Remember, there are no stupid submissions, just stupid people who make submissions. Todd, you and I will decide. Are we going to buy that? Are we going to sell that? Maybe even offer a reason why. If you use a hold, we've kind of gone gentle on these recently, with everything going on.
Have we really, though?
Have we? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it gentle. If you use your hold and therefore betray whatever's left of at our age, our waning manhoods, if you use that hold, then you're going to have to let Lindsey Graham get gentle with you. So we're going to keep it gentle.
Okay.
We're going to keep it gentle. Aaron, you may fire when ready.
Let's begin with Righteously Indignant, who says Hamas will not have their feet held to the fire for the return of the unalived hostages. Bonus, Hamas sees this as a fallback and regroup, not ultimately as a let's just get along move. I have an ancillary buy, sell, or hold to this, depending on what you guys say.
All right, you go first then.
Also, their former place of residence is just been...
It's been paved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump has made it pretty clear that, listen, I'm setting the terms on get busy living or get busy dying. And that would be a choice to get busy dying. So it could happen. I'm not going to go all in on Hamas being honest or anything like that. But if you're going to get them to start acting differently, the things that were needed to be done to make that happen were done. They were just pummeled.
So I think your skepticism of Hamas is warranted. I mean, it's literally a satanic group. All right. But I'm going to sell, even though I think everything you said from a skepticism standpoint is justified. But let me explain why I'm going to sell. On the first part, it's way too early to say no one's going to be held accountable for those that were not kept alive. Already, the head of CENTCOM here has already warned Hamas. That happened about an hour ago. Hey, you are on the edges of this ceasefire. So, this is kind of a good cop, bad cop. The Israelis got their hostages back, which is the number one thing that people wanted, and signed on to the ceasefire. Now, there is really no reason whatsoever. That was Hamas's last piece of leverage. You see what I'm trying to say? That was their last piece of leverage. Yeah. If you truly extinct us, you won't get your hostages back. We'll just kill them on the way out the door. That was their last piece of leverage. They're naked out in the open on the world stage. If they do not honor the ceasefire, there's absolutely no incentive whatsoever at that point for Israel just to not simply say, we gave it a shot and we got our hostages back. This button over here says, this is the one button we haven't hit yet, chloroform. We're going to hit that button next. I like them apples. So Hamas has no leverage left. None. Zip, zilch, nada. I agree that they're thinking all the things that you claim that they're thinking. I completely agree with that. But they have no cards. There are literally no cards left to play. To not continue the ceasefire after giving up the hostages is basically just raising your hand and saying, I don't want to be alive anymore. That's essentially what you're saying. Because your last piece of leverage, you gave that away when the last 20 alive hostages were released earlier this week. There's no card left to play. And furthermore, not enough is made of for the whole, Marjorie Taylor Greene crowd that if we bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, then we were going to have Americans home in body bags. She literally said that. None of that happened. I kind of think it should be made note when I've given a grand analysis of something I thought for sure was true and it didn't turn out. Have I not owned it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought for sure Trump couldn't win. He won. The first time. Thought for sure Trump couldn't win the second time. He won. I mean, what do you always say is maybe the proudest moment you've ever had on this show?
Oh.
Is when I did what?
When you gave up never Trump after
Trump won
2016.
Because now it's about what's best for the American people, not about proving myself correct, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of think, though, that favor should get returned. When you make grandiose things like Americans are going to come home in a body bag, the entire Arab world, if we destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, the entire Muslim world's going to start a war with Israel. There were prominent names and people in elected office and in our industry that said these kinds of things. All of the first half of this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those things came true? 0.0. Ambassador Wormer, 0. I kind of think you should own that. I kind of think you should admit that. You don't really have the read on the process you thought you did. And that doesn't mean you're terrible or bad. I mean, you're not horrible because you were concerned we were going to have another World War III and you didn't want that to happen. And does that make you a terrible person? You didn't want World War III to occur? No. So your instinct of not wanting that is not a bad thing. But when it's demonstrated that we are able to practice a certain kind of deft touch, peace through strength, so that does not occur, while also not being a complete ankle grabber in front of the face of evil on the world stage at the same time, I kind of think you should acknowledge that, right?
Yes.
And that's not too much to ask. Hey, okay, I guess I was wrong on that. And I kind of think the only reason you wouldn't acknowledge that is if you have a certain narrative about Israel and Jews that this is really all about. And it's not really about, I care about not starting World War III. You see what I'm saying? Because I feel like if you just didn't want World War III to start, and then after World War III didn't start, you just own it. You say, listen, I'm not going to apologize for not wanting World War III, but we had the best of both worlds. We knocked out Iran, and we didn't start a world war, so I'm good. I kind of think that'd be your take, right? Instead, a lot of these people didn't have that take, and don't have that take now in the aftermath of what we saw with the hostages released this weekend. Weird. Which kind of just really makes you think that it's really just about Israel and Jews at that point. I don't know what fig leaf is left to have an ulterior motive. Do you know? As a replacement theology guy yourself and a proud Roman Catholic who is open and honest, that does not think this is a prophetic reconstitution of the nation of Israel, can you tell me why you would have any other take on this other than I just don't like Jews in Israel, and that's really my only fig leaf left.
I'm actually interested in what happens in the next month, where that conversation goes.
Mm-hmm. Because all the people on one side of it have been literally proven wrong. Even if their concerns were righteous and justified, the way things turned out, they were proven wrong on virtually everything.
Right.
For example, how many Arab countries came to the aid of Iran? None. And in fact, what they actually did when Iran tried to counterstrike is they came to the aid of Israel instead. Weird. All right, how many of them came to the aid of Hamas the last 2 years as Israel was paving the place? None is the answer. None of them did. None. And in fact, they patiently waited in Cairo for Trump to come to them second after he went to Jerusalem first. That's what they did. So maybe, just maybe, a lot of people's reads on this are just wrong, and they should just admit it based on the facts on the ground. And the only reason to me you would not is if you just have another narrative, and this was just your excuse to not expose that other narrative. Because you've just been proven wrong. All your instincts are incorrect. Doesn't mean you were wrong to have them. We certainly cannot afford World War III. But at the same token, when that didn't happen, I kind of think you'd admit that and give up your ghost, right? So this is now what we talked about yesterday, where the Arab countries now are going to make a decision. The ball now is in their court. The Arab countries are going to decide whether the Israelis end up, go ahead and pilgrimize the West Bank. Whether the Israelis just take over Gaza and fulfill the biblical border mandate. The Arab world's going to decide that. Because if they are able to demonstrate that they can police their own elements and handle some level of autonomy and agency here on Israel's doorstep, then Trump will let that happen. And what do you think will happen what do you think Trump will do if they don't demonstrate they can do that? What do you think Trump will do? Just tell Israel just to stand there and take it? You think he's going to tell him that? No. And he's already demonstrated by what he did with, what was that, Operation Hammer or something, right? Back in June to the Iranian nuclear arsenal. He already demonstrated, if you guys cannot police your own, I'll do it for you. He already demonstrated, proof of concept, right? Dropped a Moab in Syria when he was the first time around. This time around, he already took out Iran's nuclear program. So he has demonstrated to a strength-based, honor-based culture in the Middle East, I will act if you test me. Don't. He's already demonstrated that. So you think Trump's just now going to sit there and say to Hamas, you bet, you rebuild, it's just adorable. You think that's what he's going to say? He can't say that. His credibility is on the line. So your skepticism of Hamas is warranted, but they're not calling any shots here now.
There it is.
They're not in charge here. They have no leverage left. Their last piece of leverage left when the last living Israeli hostage went home. That was the last card they had left to play. They're out of cards. And if they want to continue this, they're basically just raising their hands and saying, I volunteer as tribute to be unalived. And the Israelis will gladly oblige your request. I'm sure they've demonstrated that. Just use your cell phone. They'll find you.
So ancillary buy-seller hold to that. It's no longer about Hamas, what Hamas wants, and it hasn't been since they kowtowed to the very first instance of Trump's turning the screws with that Sunday deadline a couple of weeks ago.
100%.
Yeah.
Because once they capitulated then,
Yep.
that was the ball game.
All Hamas leverage left with the last Israeli hostage. They have no leverage left.
Next, gift to the galaxy. There will be no generational peace in Gaza until Jesus returns to the Mount of Olives.
Yeah, sell.
I'm going to sell. I mean, there was actually peace within that region between 110 AD and the rise of Islam. There had been, periods of generational peace in that region. So I'm going to sell as well.
Todd is sell.
I sold already.
But I here's what I do think is fascinating. And we're going to record, I'm at the point now, it's funny, 20 years ago when I got into this and I was a new Christian, I was really curious about where all these various traditions came from and these theological debates came from. And I had no idea, I'd read all the Left Behind books and was completely engrossed by them. I thought they are fantastic reads. And I was stunned to learn there were other eschatological views like what you Catholics believe, which is similar to what a lot of Lutherans and other Protestant denominations that are more Reformed believe. And so I kind of thought it was edgy to put people like Gary DeMar on to come on and challenge dispensationalism, I kind of feel now like the edgy thing is to defend it. All right. So we've got an evergreen we're going to record. It's next month in November with a fairly renowned, it would not be a name many of you would know because he's more of an academic, but a fairly renowned dispensational theology guy. And that I'm sure that'll run probably at some point next year, right? But this is one of the questions I plan on asking him, okay? If there is generational peace here as a result of this, does that, and I know what he's going to say, that would be eisegesis and not exegesis, but, what does that do to the case of dispensationalism if that happens, right? Because this is a question right out of dispensationalism, is this question. Because I would assume dispensationalism would be, the more dispensationalist you are, probably the more skeptical you're going to be that this can actually happen, right?
Yes.
So what if it does happen, right? I don't know. What would that do to the case, right? So, anyway, that's for you Theo nerds. Shout out. All right, go ahead.
Next up is Marita Marbut, who says Steve will not make it to November 15th, and he knew that when he made the agreement with Todd. Is this the Christmas thing?
It is. It is.
I think, that's likely.
No, I'll make it to November 15th. Oh, well, I'll probably be right on November 15th, but I'll make it. First of all, this year I have a ton of things going on. All right. I can make it to November the 15th. I can.
But what does making it even mean? We didn't.
Well, that's a good point. Are we talking about putting up the tree? What does that mean? Because, Amy won't let me put it up any earlier than that, probably. Not to mention, she asked this year, because, Amy is in full grandma mode. All right. So we have grandma mod the house. All right, if you guys were to come over, the main level looks dramatically different than it used to. It looks like Grandma's house now. Okay. So Amy wants to do the Christmas tree decoration. She's never asked to just do it herself with some ideas that she's had. We've always just done it as a family. She this year asked if she could do it herself. I said, of course, go ahead. So I know that she won't do it before November the 15th. She tends to be, let's wait till closer to Thanksgiving kind of thing.
Yes. You married a stable woman, who understands the natural order of things. And she's had to tolerate, well.
Very nice. My idiosyncrasies. Yes. Whatever this is. Yeah. I like that. Yes. I'll sell. I can make it to. Now, are we saying I'm not going to? Because there will be some of the Christmas stations on Sirius XM before November the 15th. They'll appear like November 1st and 2nd. So are we saying I can't tune into any of those? I mean, how strict is this? Right? If it's that strict, then I'm like Cosmo Kramer. Well, okay, I'm out. I'm just out. So at that point,
well, yeah, you would not actively be seeking out Christmas music. Like,
okay, at that point,
I don't know if you've got.
That's a sell then. Okay, I won't make it to November the 15th. That's a sell. Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah,
that didn't.
If it's going to be that strict, okay,
that's not strict. That's just that's like there's. Let's define our terms.
This is another reason why I prefer justification by faith alone. If it's going to be that strict, I'm out. All right. Okay. Oh, gosh.
Sean Anderson says Jimmy Kimmel's ABC contract is up in May of next year. It will not be renewed.
I could completely see this. I'll buy. Because I could see this. There's already, this has happened to several these kinds of shows already. I will buy. I think I could see this.
I can see it, but I don't think it's a certainty enough that I will sell.
Daniel Garrett says Steve needs a large supply of this. This is pumpkin flavored hornet and wasp spray.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
You're gonna waste the holy nectar of pumpkin spice on the evil
for my own survival? Yes.
The wasps?
Yes. Yeah, I'll paint that over the door. You bet. Right. In all seriousness, here's why this would be so effective. I can make a real case for this, and it has nothing to do with even just my own obsessive fetish. I can make a real case for it, right? Like we've got a little thing of pumpkin syrup that I supposedly bought for Aaron's coffee. But dude, I'm the only one that actually uses it.
The amount of coffee you got me, the pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
I thought it smelled kind of funky, but it was legit good. It was good.
Very good.
But you have a smell issue, though, remember? You've announced that on the show, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very picky about smells.
Okay. So, like, I had a little granola bar during the last break, and I got the pumpkin syrup for Aaron's coffee that I bought for his coffee. I got it down. Put a little of that pumpkin syrup on my granola bar.
I'm just... I don't know. Aaron's picky about smells. You're just pumpkin spicing everything. I don't know. I don't know.
In all seriousness, if you did, I'm going to make a case here, right? If you know.
Todd, you're one of the smells I'm picky about. That's why I'm glad I'm in here and you're in there now. So
I don't even know what does it mean to be picky about smells.
Oh, I just don't enjoy the smell. Not saying that you smell like this. It's just. When I was touring I think that's when it first came up. I was trying to find an apartment here. If it smells like dogs have lived there and pooped in there, I don't like that smell.
Who likes the smell of dog poop?
Aaron wants America to know if it smells like cheeks, he's out. That's what a standard that is, by the way. If it smells like people, urinated and excremented in here, I don't want to live there.
Well,
you're not alone. That's not a unique nuance.
Well, that's good to know.
Everybody else is just like bathing in it.
Yes, just buying dog poop air fresheners for their cars. And before your first date, you put 2 of those in there because chicks dig that. Yes.
Well, they're renting these apartments out to somebody, so I figure some people aren't as picky as I am.
Where was I? Pumpkin spice.
You're making the case.
Hornets wasp spray. In all seriousness, if you made it smell like fall, and you sprayed that stuff in May, June, and July, and August, could it trick the hornets and wasps into thinking, oh, snap, man, end of season. Time to go back underground. You see what I'm trying to say?
I do.
Might they kind of associate those kinds of fragrances in the air? All right, that the smell of that type of a pollen, for example, would they associate that with the end of season for them? We're not talking about the most sophisticated mentally acute beings in God's creation here, right? So could they associate that with end of season stuff, and that would keep them away all the more? Is that possible? Did I just stumble on a verifiable use of pumpkin spicing things?
What is it? Entomology? Is that the bug scientist? Is that
Etymology, I think, is the
etymology is words.
Word
Entomology
origin.
is insects. Yeah.
What's insects?
Entomology.
That's what I said.
Well, it sounded like etymology, not entomology.
Well, in addition to smelling bad,
actually,
Todd can't talk either.
I'm not sure if this is the worst Ask Me Anything or the best.
We are not going gentle. We are not going gentle. All right. Todd's body odor, motor functions have already been insulted. All right. Yes.
Don't worry, he's untrollable.
Yes.
Let's move on. Michael Rillicky says, okay, you got me 2 weeks ago on the semi-NFL boycott, pesky subscription services. I don't know what that means. But the submission is this. The cheapest and only acceptable way to catch an NFL game in 2025 is below, which is the old-fashioned over-the-air broadcast.
Wow, they still have those? Is that for real that those still exist?
Yeah. Yeah, you still,
wow.
I think the TVs these days have the built-in, converters or whatever. But do you remember back in 2008 to 2009 when the government would send you the TV converters for your old analog TVs?
Yeah. I forgot about that. You're right about that. I forgot. Do you guys, if it's not a sporting event, when's the last time you guys watched something on network TV? Do you know? Because I can't think of something that wasn't a sporting event.
When I had a really, really bad internet service provider and it was super unreliable.
Other than a live sporting event, I honestly do not remember the last time I watched something on network TV. I otherwise never watch it. I don't watch any of its episodic shows.
Like a political debate or something.
You know what? But I could have also just caught that online or on Twitter or on Fox. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because you certainly don't want to stick around because all their analysis is going to be among the worst there is. So I didn't watch any of their election night coverage. I'm having a hard time remembering. I don't watch any episodic shows at all, at least not any of theirs. Like I couldn't tell you what the number one show on network TV is right now. I would not have a clue. If you just named a show and told me it was, I'd be, okay, cool. Yeah, I wouldn't even know who's in it. Wouldn't have a clue. So it's amazing how things change, man, when you get old enough. I mean, you and I are the last generation whose parents had us stand there with aluminum foil and hold the rabbit ears when we were little kids.
We did.
Now we cannot remember watching anything on network TV whatsoever.
Yeah.
All right. We did the Jimmy Fallon ride at Universal last week, which is very underrated.
I agree.
Very underrated. But here's the thing. I didn't know anything about his show. I didn't know the name of his Ed McMahon announcer guy. Never heard the guy's name in my life. I had no idea who his house band was. Never heard of these guys.
Also I think that all of that stuff is pretty dated now.
So these guys are gone now too?
I don't know if they're gone or not, but I think it's probably pretty dated.
I didn't know any of the elements at all. Almost none of the NBC references at all. I mean, I don't watch NBC at all unless it's Sunday Night Football or they have another sporting event that I care about, which is rare.
Next up, we go to Auburn Tiger 89, who says, though James Franklin couldn't reach for the top tier, he brought Penn State back to a level of respectability after the Sandusky disaster. I
mean, there's no question. When you look at his overall record, there's no question about that. And some people just aren't.
He didn't have the job. First, it was that other guy.
Well, you thought of Bill O'Brien, who kept it together, right? And he did. Bill O'Brien did a phenomenal job. That's when they lost half their roster and everything else. Okay. He did a phenomenal job. Bill O'Brien did of keeping that together. But Franklin's overall record is very good. The problem is he just never really won the games that if you're a Penn State fan, you care the most about. He never really won those games. I mean, Curt Cignetti has more wins over top 10 teams than this year, I think it is. Maybe it's in his career. I can't remember. But in his first 2 years at Indiana, he's got more wins over top 10 teams, I think, than James Franklin had in his 11 years at Penn State. And this is always the toughest thing. I mean, hey, we were in this situation for a while with Jim, where you wondered, is he ever going to get over the hump? And the hardest thing when you have a coach like that and you're that team that's just on that doorstep over and over and over again, and every once in a while, you fire Tony Dungy, you bring in John Gruden, and he's the coach that gets you over the top. That every once in a while, that does happen. But a lot of times when you fire that coach, the next guy can't get you over the top. And so we'll see what happens with Penn State. I don't know.
He's obviously not the only coach that's in the process of being fired, is on the hot seat. It's going to happen more and more. Steve spent some time diagnosing that to the sports crowd about how the money men are in charge. I mean, but football is fundamentally broken. On top of when he wasn't winning those games earlier, at least there was a roster that he cultivated and could keep for 4 years. You are going to see more and more coaches have a very, very hard time when every single player on their roster is a free agent. Do you know?
You're right. It's a quit factor. Same thing you see in the NFL. If we're out of the playoff race, what am I doing here? Going to save my body, blah, blah, blah,
This
blah,
is
blah.
why, and to his great credit, Nick Saban, I'm not going down like that. I'm not going to be, I know I'm good at this. I know I'm the grown man. I know these are spoiled kids who need to be taught how to be a man. If you think I'm going to be held hostage at the end of my career by a bunch of spoiled punks who all think they're free, no. I give them great credit for knowing what time it was. College football is a disaster. It's terrible for modern men. It's ruining everybody. It's ruining the fans. It's ruining the players. The coaches are really, they're being asked to do the impossible now. Yes, there's still going to be a champion, but underneath all this, it is a whitewashed tomb. It is one of the greatest whitewashed tombs in American history.
I think it is possible that things could turn out exactly like you just said. I do.
They're already there now.
I think it is possible it could turn out like that.
We need a college football commissioner. Well, the very same elements that Todd is talking about will never allow there to be a college football commissioner. One more quickly before the break. Bullfrog was here, says Todd laying down during the show was one of the top 3 all-time show moments.
I have to sell. I wasn't here or a part of it.
Yeah, that's a pretty high bar. It was
a thing that happened.
It was a thing that happened. Might be one of Todd's best.
It was quality.
3 moments on the show, but I have to believe after doing this for 20 years that I can come up with something better than Todd laying down on the show. I have to believe that. Otherwise, what are we doing here? You can buy gold and get silver for free. That's right. For every $5,000 purchased from Birch Gold Group this month in advance of Veterans Day, they will send you a free patriotic silver round that commemorates the Gadsden and American flags. So look, gold is up over 40% since the beginning of this year, and Birch Gold can help you own it by converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Plus, they'll send you a free silver honoring our veterans on a qualifying purchase. And if you're current or former military, Birch Gold has a special offer that's just for you. They are waiving custodial fees for the first year on investments of any amount. Because with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, many of which are you guys, Birch Gold encourages you to diversify your savings into gold. If you text my name, Steve, to the number 989898. Text Steve to the number 989898 for a free info kit on gold and claim your eligibility for free silver with qualifying purchases before the end of this month. Again, text my name, Steve, to 989898. Text Steve to 989898. Do it today. All right, we'll get back to buy, sell, or hold. We'll get through as many of these as we can. Then what remains, subscribers, you will get them later today in the overtime at blazetv.com/Deace.
John Kincaid says, book Tracy Beans. Well, John, ask and you shall receive.
Indeed.
Tracy is scheduled to be back on the Deace group later this week. I swear I had no idea about your submission when I asked her yesterday, but she is good to go for the Deace group this week. So she is coming back. Looking forward to that. Aaron Reale says, the best way to deal with this young Republican scandal in a way that honors God and works in our favor is to acknowledge the leaked texts are wicked and indefensible, but make the contrast between our willingness to take out the trash compared to the Democrats and Jay Jones.
I'll let you take this one first because I didn't even know about this story until right before I came in and you told me a little bit about it. I don't really even know much about
it. Aaron, can you put that up again? The best way to deal with it is to do what?
Is to, in a way that honors God and works to our favor, is to acknowledge the leaked texts are wicked and indefensible, but make the contrast between our willingness to take out the trash compared to Democrats and Jay Jones.
It depends on what taking out the trash is. Listen, we do have to have a higher standard. There is, there are moments where you do not. I mean, you also don't have to be on all the time. If you, what's the list of words that are do's and don'ts? And the slippery slope never ends. But do I think in the name of unity, somehow we shouldn't at least be saying like, yeah, come on, guys. Grow up? No, we should be saying that. So I don't have an exactly right response on this, but I would disagree with anybody who says like we should not be. You're not conceding to the left by pointing out, yeah, this doesn't happen if you're just not regularly talking like a jackass.
So can I give my take?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I think we should publish every single leftist's, if they are leaked, I think we should publish every single leftist's private group chats. And if they are unsavory and calling for the deaths of their political opponents, I think they should all lose their jobs. And I think anybody who publishes right-wing group chats, anybody involved with the publishing or leaking of those group chats, involved in the publishing with those, not those involved in the chats, should lose their jobs. That's my take.
I like your stance quite a bit. One, I've not read a single one of these texts. I had no idea this was even a story. Every day when I get in, one of the first things I ask you guys is what?
What's the story?
Yeah, any breaking news? Almost always the answer is probably nothing you haven't already heard. Today was this story, and I had not heard anything about it. So I have not read a single one of these texts. I didn't know they existed until 6 minutes before we went on the air. My initial read was this was just a clear attempt to try to deflect from what's going on with the Virginia Attorney General's race.
That's all it is.
And I have no interest in participating in that. I could care less about any form. I don't think there's any. I don't view America as like an open jury. And so drawing these kinds of contrast to the huddled masses and great middle unwashed would be beneficial to us. I don't think there's much of a huddled mass and much of a great unwashed. I think we're in a cold civil war. So I wouldn't punish those involved to try to draw a contrast like at all.
No.
At all.
Nope.
No. I just do it because it was bad. If it's as bad as everybody is saying. Now, I will tell you, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with young Republicans in general. Maybe things have changed. But I've been in this racket for going on starting a third decade here soon. Usually Republican, young Republican groups are made up of young men like Alistair Smythe Lancaster, whose great uncle was an esteemed fellow and senator from the renowned state of New York or Illinois. Usually, the young Republicans are populated by all the Republican is usually the breeding ground of the very kinds of Republicans that will be reporting us all to the left and selling us all out and be auditioning for future CNN and MSNBC contributor roles. So I kind of, particularly in the AI deepfake era, with all due respect, this is a Politico story from what I looked up just a minute ago. I'm going to need a little bit more than a Politico story. As a general rule, though, I don't tolerate that kind of talk. What's alleged? I'm in lots of private group chats on the entire American right. I'm in numerous private signal groups. I've never been in one where anyone communicated like that in any way, shape, or form, nor would I tolerate it if they did. Okay? So A, I don't trust Politico at all. B, the timing of this is just to get a bunch of nebulous, nameless college kids to deflect away from the fact that, Virginia's trying to elect an attorney general who would be fine murdering us all with our kids. C, I don't want to do anything to make any kind of contrast. I don't think there's a trial. I don't think there's any witnesses at all that we need to persuade. D, I just would get rid of them because it's ungodly if it's true and godless. That's all I need. I don't really care what some great mass of unwashed that does not exist thinks. And then E, I'm going to kind of need proof in the deep fake AI era. I'm going to need a little bit more than the words of Politico that these texts are real. That's my answer. Whatever that is, buy or sell, you guys decide.
Sell.
Okay.
Next, we go to Adam the Exterminator, who says Stargate is a documentary.
Do you remember the movie?
Of course.
Yeah.
We're talking, James Spader.
James Spader.
And Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, yeah. What, 1994, 95, somewhere in there? Yeah.
No.
You don't think it's a documentary?
No.
I'm going to sell too. But I can see why people think otherwise. I can.
Why?
Because the History Channel has, for the last decade, traded in all its credibility for Eric von Donigen's Ancient Aliens as a complete 24-hour block of content as a network. And and after a decade of that, the U.S. government is admitting to people that non-human intelligence is real. So I can see why people think Stargate turns out was a documentary. I can see why.
And as we know, the experts in the government always tell you the truth.
Listen, I didn't say they were smart people. I just said they were people. All right. Listen, I don't think it was a documentary, but I can see. So I'm going to sell. But I can see why people are thinking that. Not to mention, it's not like the church is out there competing for the grand truths of the universe at the moment.
There's that.
On the second thought, right? Okay. I mean, listen. Can we just be brutally honest?
Get her.
All right. If you're an unbeliever and you're an earnest truth seeker, and you rightfully don't trust the cultural institutions weaponized against you, right? All right.
Mm-hmm.
What narrative do you probably have most of your hope is true? A, the current state of the Christian church, which on purpose basically attempted to purge as many men from its ranks, and then the ones that couldn't purge, it attempted to castrate for an entire generation as much as they could, okay? And so you listen to Charlie, you're the young man, let me do it this way. You're the young man who listened to Charlie, loved Charlie, and went to church right after his death. And you walked into your local evangelical church and you saw a guy wearing a sweater vest over the top of his Hawaiian shirt. And it was even pleated khaki shorts. And he's wearing Birkenstocks. And you're thinking, I'm not sure this guy's got the secrets to the universe. Okay? Or that there's a benevolent, all-knowing race of non-human intelligence that planted humanity and is on its way back to correct and finalize things. Where would you more likely place your hope? The modern evangelical American minister whose Bible is almost never open or only open to the same 10 verses over and over and over again? Or Operation Stargate? What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to I have to put it in an actual human being and not a fake alien. So, I mean.
I can see the attraction, given the current state of the church. I can see the attraction to Stargate. I can see it.
Elliot Evans is next, who says cessationism is deism light.
Now that's loaded. So let's determine.
Should we say full cessationism?
Let's define terms, okay? Because there's different types of cessationism as well. But in general, cessationism means that the miracles performed by the apostles from Pentecost through the end of the apostolic era died out with the apostles. And there are no more apostles, because to be an apostle, you had to have been with Christ. So there are no more apostles, and therefore they are no longer wielding these sorts of apostolic gifts. And anybody who tells you now that they have these kind of charismatic gifts in the contemporary era is either mistaken or a fraud or is demonically deceived and not receiving that power from the Holy Spirit. Is that a fair general term, Aaron? Are you okay with
I
it?
think so, yeah.
All right. The deism, of course, which was way more popular during the founding era of the country, and you've all been told your founders were all deists, and they weren't. A few were, but it was more popular, but let's not make it look like they were like, the Socrates and Aristotles of the era. Okay. It was, basically an offshoot. Basically, the deists were the Randian libertarians of the late 18th century. People who didn't want to obey God or his word, but still had to account for the fact that there's some kind of mystical order to the universe that just could not possibly be random. That's basically what they were. And so there was a God, there was a creator, but he was a kid with an anthill. He's just an observer. He's not involved. He's not sovereign. He doesn't move his hand within, a human history or to thwart it. He's just a bystander. He's just a viewer. Okay. He's a voyeur. Is that a fair definition?
I think so.
Okay. Even though I am not a cessationist, I'm going to sell because cessationists absolutely believe in a personal, sovereign, involved God. If you want to argue that they have incorrectly put limits on that God, I think that's a better argument. But I think it goes way too far to compare cessationism to deism. Way too far. So I will sell.
I'm Catholic, but I was going to basically say the same thing you said at the end there. I don't know.
And you guys are not cessationists as a church group. Yeah.
No.
Because you guys obviously would have to disavow miracles and everything else that the church has documented or testified to. You'd have to, since the apostolic era, you guys would have to disavow all that, right?
The priesthood only makes sense from apostolic succession.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because, of course, the head of the apostles was Peter. First bishop of your church is Peter. Correct. Yeah. Apostolic succession is vital. Right. And if there's no more apostles, then you don't have any more apostolic succession. Correct.
Next, we go to I Like Turtles, or I Like Totals, who says Thursday Night Football is the best regular season NFL product.
I don't tend to watch it unless the Lions are on it, so I don't know the answer to that.
3 years ago, this was a hard sell, but it seems like they've had some
Has it gotten better? Because I know
matchups this year.
A few years ago, even Al Michaels doing the games, there were clips going around of him complaining about the schedule on the air. So which if you're Al Michaels, you get to do stuff like that. I don't want to do it on these crap games. All right. So you're telling me that they listen to Al and they've made the schedule better? Is that what you're saying?
It seems like it.
The funny thing,
I have it on in the background because Thursdays are kind of our busy night, but it seems like they've had some good games.
Okay.
one of the great things about Sports Pro is both varieties, pro and college, is in their July. I cannot wait. It's the best time. I love it. And then the season comes, and they're celebrating about the schedule coming out. Oh, look at this! Let's assess. And then the amount of complaining you hear during the year about how the games sucked or are going to suck, and there's nothing, the matchups suck. Like this is the double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. I thought it's just football, man. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just.
So, are you a buyer?
Yeah. You know what I am.
All right, I think you're a sell. Okay. Hey, that's going to do it for Buy, Sell, or Hold. We'll get to the rest of these coming up in the overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/days. Before we get out of here and share our final thoughts, a final word about our friends over at Deace Medical. We've talked a lot about them in the past, and a lot of you have seen the value in being prepared and have gotten the Deace case. For those who don't know, the Deace case is a kit filled with emergency medications with prescription antibiotics, just in case those are the next one's taken away from you, right when you might need them the most. It's a must-have. So do yourself a favor, check it out. What you may not know, though, is even if you have the Deace case, is that Deace has been working to expand their lineup with total preparedness solutions tailored for you and your family. So I know all of you guys are the type that you want to do your own research, so go ahead, check them out, see which is an antibiotic, first aid, or other preparedness kits right now for the ones you provide for and protect in your home and your family. All right, the doctors at Deace, they're always coming up with new ideas to make your emergency readiness even stronger, so you'll want to keep your eyes on them. They've also got some more exciting things here coming soon, all right? And remember, they came on board because they saw what happened to hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin during COVID. Ivermectin, by the way, is a potential add-on to your customized Deace case at Deace Medical. So enter the promo code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code DEACE at JASE.com. Promo code Deace at jace.com. Promo code Deace at jace.com. Gentlemen, final thoughts?
Well, Godspeed on your trip. You've been asked to speak in many amazing places. I got to think that this honor to speak in the footsteps of the martyr Charlie Kirk has just got to be, there's nothing better than that. What an honor. So well done.
Amen. Thank you.
Yeah. Amen to that. Are you nervous at all?
I'm not, because I've got Lucas Miles with me, the head of TPUSA Faith. We're doing it together. And like the stuff I'm not really the strongest on, like I have no idea which Masoretic text Bishop Athanasius codified in 732 AD. I just made all that up.
Yes, you did.
Okay. Lucas knows all that. All right. So I'm confident I've got the philosophy stuff. All right. Lucas knows the technical stuff I don't know. So I think together we're going to be okay. So looking forward to it. We're still going to have regular shows the next 2 days. I'll just be on the road in South Carolina. All right. Stick around for the overtime if you're a subscriber at blazetv.com/Deace. For the rest of you, go hard. Romans 8:28.